Everybody. So I'm going to be teaching you how to reuse and recycle your content. How many of us are content marketers / SEOs in the room? Awesome. Okay, then hopefully this will be really helpful for you. One of the biggest things when it comes to content is we want to create less content and we want to promote more of the content that we already have. It's the idea of quality versus quantity. Sure, we can just pump out tons of content, but if none of it's quality, it doesn't really mean anything for our users or for our brands. And for users, we have the constant complaint from them on how there's so much content out there. I really wanted to read your new blog post, but I'm just too busy. There's just so many other pieces of content, so many other videos that I want to watch. And then we have in-house marketers who say, well, I don't write content for a sexy industry. It's so hard to come up with new content. That's one of our biggest struggles as in-house marketers, is trying to figure out how to make a boring industry exciting. And then there's agencies. Agencies like to complain that, okay, well, I can create content, but then the company has no actual budget to promote the content. So then the content's just going to sit in the cyber world, and then we have to charge our clients to create it, and there's no real ROI. We can't really measure it. And my favorite is CEOs who say, well, I don't want to be the focus of the story of our content. Can you not make content about me, even though they're the best story and produce the best returning content? It's exciting when you actually find out about a business, who the person is behind it, what their inspiration was for creating the company, what their inspiration was for coming to work every single day, hiring the employees that they did. But then CEOs don't want to be the content. So all in all, we're stuck with struggling to actually make new content. So let's figure out how we can actually use the content that we already have and how we can repurpose it into different types of content. So I'm going to go over 5 things here. First is the buffer experiment. It's going to be a really fun example. And then content rules to follow, so you have a better idea of the do's and don'ts of reusing your content. And then we'll go over how you can make the buffer experiment a reality for you, for your clients, and for your brand, how to measure it, and some final tips. So first, the buffer experiment. Is everyone kind of familiar with Buffer? I believe Rand brought up Buffer yesterday. So Buffer is a social media management platform. They decided to run a really fun content experiment. They're great at producing content. They're one of the leaders in the industry for producing content, keeping us informed about social media management. And so they said, you know what, let's try something fun. Let's run an experiment with our content. So the experiment was, let's not create any new content for 4 weeks. And under that, there was 3 rules that they had to follow. The first, okay, don't publish any brand new content. Goes without saying. The second, repurpose evergreen content into ebooks and SlideShares. And the third, update all of your old blog posts into audio and graphics. So by going through these 3 steps, the very first thing that they needed to do was audit the content that they've already created to figure out, okay, which pieces are we actually going to recycle and which pieces are we going to republish. They went through their spreadsheet and analyzed, okay, what's the top performing posts? What really, really performed well, what helped us hit our goals, what got a lot of backlinks, what got a lot of shares, got a lot of engagement. And so the content audit took a fairly long time. But what came out of it was 10 pieces of content that they decided, okay, from here we can reuse or recycle, and we're going to go through and divide it. Week 1, we're going to focus on these pieces of content, week 2, week 3, and week 4. And so once they ran their audit, they picked their top 10, they figured out ways to reuse and recycle the content, they then had to wait for the 4 weeks and wait for data and stats to come in and figure out, can they really go 4 weeks without creating new content? 4 weeks went by, the results came in, and blog traffic went down. Of course it did. They went 4 weeks without creating any new content. But it didn't go down that much, which was kind of surprising. It only went down 4%. And their average new sessions were 1.15% increase. Kind of strange when you're not actually creating any new content. Their organic traffic also went up to their blog. And then they got a lot of other positive feedback starting to come in from the 4 weeks. They took three of their old pieces of content and created SlideShare decks out of them, uploaded them on SlideShares. Their referral traffic went up from 50 visits to 90 visits on SlideShare, and they increased their overall SlideShare views by 380%. They also had a lot of other great things happen. 2,300 ebook downloads. They created an email drip campaign, which was really successful for them from the 10 pieces of content. And then they maintained less than a 5% drop in unique visits to the blog. All in all, that's good. I mean, for going 4 weeks without creating any new content, stuff still happened. They still got conversions. They still got engagement. They still kept their traffic fairly fluid to their blog. Come on, clicker. Okay, so some rules to follow before we jump into a little bit more details on how Buffer did this and how you can actually do it for your brands and for your customer. You need a better understanding of the basic rules for reusing content. And first, you need to know the difference because there's a big difference between republishing your content and recycling your content. Republishing content is what we do fairly often. This is going to that blog post and updating the stats, adding some graphics. It's going to content that's already been created and making a few updates to it. And then going back through and redistributing it, reposting it on social media, maybe throwing out an email newsletter for it. Whereas recycling is taking that content, taking that topic, and turning it into brand new content. So you're taking that blog post, and now you're going to record audio from the content. If you don't want to do audio, you can go and you can do a video from the content. You can make an infographic. You're basically taking your original piece of content and recreating it into a different type of content. So the first rule when it comes to reusing, whether you're going to republish or recycle, is please don't republish all of your content. You do still need to create new content. But the point being is you can get away with it like what Buffer did with doing 10 pieces out of all the content that they audited. They chose 10 pieces. So yeah, you can republish and recycle your content, but just not all of it. You need to be very particular on the content that you choose to recycle and republish. And the second rule is to wait 2 weeks before you start republishing your content. Google needs time to index your first round of the content before you're actually going to get some kind of results from it. So give Google a second, let them go through, let them index it, let them check it out, get a feel for your content before you go in and start updating the stats, swapping out photos, maybe throwing a video in there. And the third rule is don't change the URL if you're republishing. And remember, republishing is just going back into your content and making updates to it. You really don't want to do that unless you're going to take the time to do the maintenance on that. So the maintenance is everywhere that content is posted, the URL will be broken if you change the URL. Unless you take the time and go to your social media posts, fix the URL, you go to the pages that are sending you backlinks to the content, you ask them, hey, we just updated our URL, please update it on your website. Also go to your own website and all of the links that are posting on your website to that content, all of that needs to be updated. So sure, go ahead and update your URL if you're going to take care of all of that. Otherwise, you're going to have broken URLs to your content. And now the Buffer experiment. So how can we actually make this a reality for you? How can we make it a reality for your customers and for your clients? The first step is you need to define what your content goals are. Why are you creating content in the first place? What does it even matter? Yeah, we're told to do it. We read blog posts, we see SEJ, Search Engine Journal, tell us we need to produce this much content. We have arguments about how long our content should be. But it doesn't matter if we don't actually have our goals defined on why we're creating content in the first place. So Buffer went through, and before they even audited their content, they came up with a list. Here's all of the goals that we want to achieve by going 4 weeks without producing any new content. And they got very specific. It wasn't just, we want to increase rankings, or we want 50 likes on a new post. They got very specific, 10,000 ebook downloads, 25,000 video views, less than 5% drop in unique visits to the blog, and it's a variety of goals. Different content goals are going to produce different results. Different content types are going to produce different results. And don't worry, you're going to have access to all these slides at the end, so you do not have to write all this down. But this is just an example on how, if you want to increase your brand exposure, well, a great way to do that is by guest posting on other websites, increasing the amount of blog posts that you're doing infographics. If you want customer education, create content like training courses. Certain pieces of content are going to help you achieve certain types of goals. The second step after you have your goals defined on why you're doing this experiment in the first place is to now audit your content. This is where Buffer went through, had that long Google Excel document, and they went through and they started auditing all of the content that they produced. There's a lot of pros to auditing your content. You're going to learn what are my most popular topics. So what do people like the most? What do people want to hear me write about, hear me do interviews about, do videos about? You're also going to learn what kind of content works the best. Is it listicles? Is it videos? Is it case studies, infographics? And who's the author that gets the most engagement? Lots of times, 1 or 2 specific authors are going to generate the most traffic to your blog, to your website, to your YouTube page. Certain authors attract certain demographics. And then you're also going to learn about your distribution methods. What distribution methods work best for your content and for which content types. And then finally, how long does it take before it actually gets some traction? So if you keep track by auditing all of your content, you're going to learn how long it really takes for your content to take off and start to get the engagement, start to reach your goals. So I've created a similar Excel that Buffer used for auditing content. This is also what I use to audit my content. It's available at bit.ly/content-audit-excel. Again, you'll have access to the decks, so you don't have to write fast or take photos if you don't want to. This goes on and on and on and on and on. And so my recommendation, if you're not already auditing your content, don't go back to 2010. It's okay. You're going to be working on that until probably 2019. Go back through 2017, fill this in, get all of your content updated, get all of your content on this doc, and start from there. From this point forward, start filling this in on a weekly basis. You're going to want to reference this quite a lot. So if you take the time to just pop in once a week, here's the new content that the company's promoted, here's new content that we've created for the client, filter this in. It won't be as difficult as having to go back a whole year and do it, and you're also going to be able to update your metrics as time goes on. So the third step is to create your gem list. This is what Buffer did with their 10. They decided, okay, here's the 10 pieces that I want to use. You don't need to choose 10. You can choose a number that makes the most sense for your clients and for your brand for this experiment. It may only be 5, it may be 20. You may want to overachieve and go really high and recycle and republish a lot of your content for this experiment. But for now, we'll go with Buffer's number 10. And we'll choose 5 to recycle and 5 to republish. So what Buffer did here is a lot of strategy. Yes, they went through the content audit to figure out which pieces are going to make the most sense, which ones were really highly engaged, what received a lot of backlinks. Those 10 pieces were what they chose. But when it came to figure out which ones did they want to recycle versus which ones do they want to republish, they chose things like listicles. It's very easy to update the big list of Twitter tools, 91 free Twitter tools. You can update that every 6 months. Tools are constantly coming out. And then they chose other options like how-tos. So how to create a social media marketing plan from scratch. They decided, let's update that with a brand new infographic. How-tos make great infographics. So here they're choosing to republish. We're just going to update this. And here they're choosing to recycle this how-to content and make it an infographic. You can do the same with your 10 gyms, 5 gyms, 20 gyms, whatever you choose. And the fourth step is now the distribution. You have the content, you figured out what you're going to turn it into, whether you're going to recycle or republish. Now you need to distribute it. One of my favorite quotes, and it's a quote that was said here, it's a quote of a quote that was said here at SearchLove a few years ago, is that content is king, but distribution is queen, and she wears the pants. And I made the mistake of not wearing pants today, but just pretend. And this is such a great quote because as marketers, 84% of us are integrating content into our marketing strategies. That's great, we all need to. But where it really changes and gets impacted is how we're distributing the content. We can't just create it without actually having a strategy for our distribution methods. Otherwise, this awesome content, these 10 gyms that we're recycling and republishing, are just going to sit in the cyber world all alone. And no one likes being all alone. So how we distribute the content is going to make or break the effectiveness of the content. There's a lot of different ways that we can distribute the content. For the users that complain, oh, there's so much content out there. I can't find your content, or it's hard for me to engage with your content. Well, you as marketers have 3 options. You can go the paid route. You can do some social ads, put it on Instagram, put it on Facebook. You can do the native display advertising, do some retargeting funnels by using your content. You can also reach out to PR, get some paid influencers, do some press releases on it. And then you have your earned. This is the kind of free, not as much paid route. Earned is your SEO. This is what we're talking about. This is how to improve your rankings. This is doing your local search like Darren was talking about. The reviews that you're getting, any media coverage that you're getting, brand mentions that you're getting from your content, and then the engagement. Finally, there's owned. This is what we initially pay for, then maybe pay for maintenance ongoing, the website that we created to build or paid someone to build, the blog that we're updating or we're hiring writers to update, the social media posts, and the YouTube posts that we're doing. So you figure out what distribution model makes the most sense for you or your client, whether they have money to go the paid route or need to go more of the earned or free route, and then it's time to wait. Buffer decided, I'm going to wait 4 weeks. That's the timeline that they put on this experiment. That's what made the most sense for them and their goals. 4 weeks may be too soon or too long for you. You don't want to go under 2 weeks. You need to at least give your content 2 weeks because Google needs the 2 weeks. Past that, you really want to look at your content audit and see how long was it taking my content to start getting kind of traction and some interaction. Sometimes content can take months and months before it kicks off. And then all of a sudden it goes viral and now it has all these buzz terms and it's amazing content. Your content audit is going to tell you how often that happens for the content that you're producing and for your clients. If it's not happening like that and you're getting engagement a lot sooner, you're able to start tracking your content a lot faster, then you may not need to wait the 4 weeks for this experiment. You may just wait the 2 weeks. So after you've gone through your audit, you've chosen your recycling, your republishing pieces, now it's time to measure the results to see, okay, did it work? Buffer went back through and they had all their goals and they went one by one to see, did we actually hit our goals? Less than 5% drop in unique visits, they hit that goal. They actually only got 4%. 500% increase in slide shares, they didn't hit that goal, but they did get 116 versus the 450. That was still a 380% increase. That's still fantastic. And then going down, they still didn't hit all the goals, but they tried a new email drip campaign. They got a lot of ROI coming out of that. And then they have a learning center built. Brand new types of content that came from this experiment. And again, they didn't have to create any new content to do this. So essentially, They went 4 weeks on vacation, which they ran this during summer, so they could have actually gone on vacation and pre-planned this. But however which way they did it, they went back through and they tracked their goals. Now, again, for your goals are going to be very unique to your client. Your goals are going to be very unique to what your business plan objections are. So we're going to do a little experiment here that you're probably all going to hate me for. But to prove that not all metrics are the same when it comes to what's most important for your goals and when you're actually adding up the metrics, I'm going to prove to you guys how different metrics can be. So I'm going to put the little timer on. Okay, talking to the person next to you, I want you to ask them, what do they think the key metrics are for blog posts? So when you go back and you measure in your blog post, what are you looking for? What's the most important key metric that you need? 90 seconds on the clock. Go ahead and talk to each other. Two, one. Timer! Time's up, everybody. Okay, so what metrics did we get? Anyone want to share 1 or 2 metrics that they talked about? Social sharing. Backlinks. Comments. Time on page. Any others? Those are the main ones. Anchor text. 3 of the most important metrics to track for your blog posts: time on page, website traffic, and new users. We're going to do the same thing that we just did, but what do you think the most important metrics are for podcast content? 90 seconds on the clock, and go. Three, two, one, and time's up, everybody. What metrics did we get for podcasts? What should we be measuring for podcasts? Subscribers? Oops, excuse me. Listen length? Reviews on the podcast. Shares? Any other ideas? Downloads. The 3 most important metrics for podcasts: listening length. Are we keeping them the whole podcast, or are they dipping out as soon as our ad comes on? How many new subscribers are we getting, and how many shares is the podcast getting? These are two completely different pieces of content, still equally important for us achieving our digital marketing goals, but the metrics that matter for them are completely different. So as you're going through and you're trying to measure the results, you're updating your content audit, keep in mind that just because your blog post increased your website traffic dramatically and your podcast didn't, it may not be the most important metric for your podcast. So in terms of what to measure with your content and some tools to help you as you're going back through and you tried the experiment, you're running your content audit, okay, what do we really need to pay attention to? The user behavior is huge. When they landed on your content, how much time are they spending on the page? Are they interacting with the content? Are they going to other pages on your website? Or are they going back to Google and checking the search results again? Are they unique visitors? What's the page depth, the bounce rate? Where are they coming from as far as traffic? All of the user behavior you can find using tools like SEMrush Reports. You can look up Full Circle, which Dana just told me about this morning, if she's in here. No, Full Circle sounds amazing. I have yet to use it, but she was telling me all about it this morning. Full Circle is basically the idea of giving you the, full story. That's what it is, full story. Google Analytics gives you half the story. Full Story gives you the full story of the user behavior, so definitely check out that tool. And then we have Simple Reach and Chartbeat are also going to help you get the metrics as far as user behavior on your content. And then you have engagement. So this is your social media metrics, your PR metrics. As far as PR, we want to know, are you getting any brand mentions from this content that you reused? Are you having any other companies or brands reaching out to you and saying, hey, I loved this top 91 Twitter tool post that you shared. I want to collaborate with you because I'm a Twitter tool. Let's work on a piece of content together. Let's do a video together. And then republications. Hey, I loved the Twitter list that you came up with. Can I share it as well? And then your social metrics, likes, comments, shares. As far as engagement, you're looking at engagement metrics. You're looking at going into your social media platforms, going to the back of Facebook, the back of Twitter, Pinterest, and Instagram. Business Analytics will give you all this information. You can also go into the SEMrush social media tracker. You can check mention and Brand24 for all of your PR analytics. That's going to give you all of your brand mentions. And then there's SEO outcomes, so the backlinks, organic traffic, dwell time, keyword rankings, aka did this content do anything to my rankings? Did it improve it at all? Did it help my keywords? Did it hurt me at all? Did I get any bad backlinks from this? Is someone spamming the crap out of me or my client? You need to know that. You can check your SEO metrics using tools like the SEMrush on-page SEO tracker. Go into domain analytics, you can also use GA, look at Google Trends and Majestic. What's interesting though, through all these metrics that we have to measure, which are a ton for our content, is that B2B marketers report sales lead quality as the #1 most important metric for B2B. They say that's more important than sales and conversions, which is why we actually do need to track ROI. It's fairly difficult to directly track ROI when it comes to content. But there are ways to do it. There are ways to track it. It's generally going to be a long sales process unless you're doing something a little bit more direct, like ebooks to landing pages, opt-in forms, more of a direct result and direct action from the content that you're producing, like in a YouTube video. So this is, did the content reach out to any of your existing leads using your CRM? Did you generate any new leads? What's the ROI, the cost per acquisition for all of the new leads that the content generated? And what's your overall conversion rate, if there's even a conversion rate with the content? So you can find this by going into your CRM, seeing are there any new leads that were generated out of this? What were the existing leads? You can also do good old-fashioned math, which we're all terrified of as marketers, just by dividing your conversions with your clicks. And then you can also track the number of returning users in Google Analytics. So some final takeaways. We've figured out why we need to repurpose, some different reusing rules, how you can make the buffer experiment a reality for you. Now the important stuff. don't be afraid to update your old content. This is the republishing part of our content. So often when we have pieces of content that do great, and they do great for maybe a year, then they just die out, we're afraid to actually go back in and update them. But those pieces of content are filled with stats, maybe old images. We have better technology now. Maybe we can throw a video in there. Don't be afraid to go back in there and update it, because if you don't, it's gonna make your brand, it's gonna make your client look very outdated. It's going to hurt their reputation when you're trying to provide information and you're including stats from 2013 and it's now 2018. Those are 5-year-old stats. I no longer care about that information, and the fact that you haven't even gone back and checked your content and realized that you still have a stat from 5 years ago in there, that tells me that you don't care, when you probably do care. You also want to turn your text into video and audio. We're producing so much text content, and it's not a bad thing, but reuse that text content. It's the easiest type of content to reuse and repurpose. This is the recycling idea. Your text content can easily be turned into audio. Have someone with a fantastic voice read your blog post, record it, put it inside of the blog post and give people an option. I want to press play and I want to listen to this blog post, or I want to actually read it myself. I was just at Humboldt State University in Northern California last week, and I was talking to their newspaper department and trying to teach them how to get more exposure using social media. Well, one of the best ways they can do that is by, instead of just printing all of these news stories and taking what they're doing in print and throwing it online and making it into a blog post, is when you're interviewing someone, record it on audio and upload it into the middle of the story. We can be implementing these same ideas that journalists are doing with our text content. And put your content on SlideShare and Quora. If you don't like making presentations, it's okay. Pay someone to do it. There's a lot of great content on SlideShare, and if you're not getting yourself or your clients on SlideShare, you're really missing out on a big opportunity for engagement and links. SlideShare is generating a lot of traffic for websites. It's generating a lot of rapport for companies and brands as well. And then Quora, there's so many conversations happening on Quora. It does not take that long for us to go to a forum, type in a question about a topic that we just wrote about, go to some of the questions, answer them, put links to the content that you just produced. Throw in a paragraph to help answer the question. For more information, click here, because I just wrote a whole blog post about it, or I just recorded a video about the same question. You're going to help increase your traffic by doing that and achieve your goals. You also want to turn your old blog posts into ebooks. This is the tip that I gave yesterday, which we'll add it to it. Then throw that ebook on Amazon. These are ebooks that you don't necessarily have to charge for. You can give away for free as a way to increase your leads. Then throw them into a funnel, get them onto a landing page, start email marketing to them. Why not? Why wouldn't we do things like this? It's so simple. Our text content is what we're used to doing. It's our little comfort zone. But take that text content, compile it with a lot of the other similar categories, similar topics, throw a table of contents on it, put graphics, make a very nice cover, and start giving it away for free as a resource. Charge $4.95 if your client's really against anything for free because they don't want to damage their reputation. Then charge $4.95 for it, throw it on Amazon, get some reviews going, get some links going. And please think mobile first with your content. Mobile index is here. Yay! But we're still not thinking about mobile with our content. Mobile devices are projected to reach 79% of global internet use by the end of this year. We're no longer half, we're no longer 60. That's almost 100% of our global internet use is going to be from our mobile devices. That's huge and terrifying. If you're not thinking about how to write content for mobile already, you need to right now. Because if you don't, you're going to miss out. Nearly 8 in 10 customers are going to stop engaging with your content if it doesn't display well on mobile. We know these things, we've been told these things, but we're still not producing content that looks great and is easy to engage with on mobile. And the simplest ways to do this is your text size. It needs to be readable. That doesn't mean huge. So I see a lot of companies who read the Google mobile recommendations and then they go on their mobile site and make their text super big. And then I'm scrolling and scrolling to get through one sentence. It's irritating. No one wants to have to scroll that much to get through a paragraph, let alone a sentence. So yes, keep your text big on mobile, but just make sure it's readable. It doesn't need to be extra large, medium and large is just fine. And then as far as images, yeah, we've been told keep image file sizes small and loadable, but what about your videos, guys? Everyone's forgetting about your video files. Your video files need to be very small. Those need to load really fast because images are soon a thing of the past. Videos are so much cooler. It was text, then it was audio, then it was images. Now videos are here. So your videos, you really need to think about as you're creating videos, because you all need to be creating videos for your clients, that when you're exporting them, your file sizes for your mobile site especially need to be very small. And then your load speed. Be under 2 seconds or less, preferably be under a second, but not all of us can do that. So get your mobile site loading as fast as possible. But even past this, taking it a step further, I wanted to run a little experiment as far as mobile keywords. So typed in BuzzFeed into our keyword positions at SEMrush, the organic search positions to see, okay, on desktop, what's coming up when people are searching for BuzzFeed on desktop? Well, BuzzFeed, duh. BuzzFeed quizzes, yeah, that makes sense. More quizzes, an air fryer, and food, because BuzzFeed recipes. Okay, that makes sense. That's what people are looking for on their desktop. But then, if you look at what are people searching for on their mobile devices, it's different. BuzzFeed again. Nicki Minaj, strange, but okay. Quizzes, yo mama jokes, and would you rather. This is hilariously honest because when we're on our mobile devices, we're not necessarily always looking for a food recipe of what we're gonna cook tonight. That's maybe what we're doing while we're at work and between lunch break and whatnot. But we are looking up a yo mama joke to tell our coworker that's sitting next to us. And we are looking up a would you rather while we're out having drinks at the networking party yesterday. And Nicki Minaj, celebrities. Think about your own user behavior patterns when you're creating content. It's not just stuffing this content with mobile keywords. It's what are you doing on your mobile devices? What are you searching for on your mobile devices? Are you not really finding that answer or that experience that you're looking for? You're probably not because we're still not thinking mobile first with our content yet. So create content that actually mimics these results, not the desktop results. And with that, you can get all of the slides and the tons of tools and info that was listed in here. You can email me, ashley.ward@semrush.com, and I'd be very happy to share this deck with you and answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Ashley. Looks like we've got a minute for questions. While someone gets ready to put their hand up. I was going to ask, no, there we go for it. We're going to run a mic down.
Awesome presentation. When you were talking about don't be afraid to update your content, do you know of any studies or any way to know if when you update the content, how it impacts your existing rankings for that page? So let's say you're doing well, you're number 7 for your target keywords, you then add a slew of content. Mm-hmm. Do we know if it's going to have a positive or a negative impact in general?
So we don't know, and that's the risk with going with it. But if you have your content audit and you're updating it on a weekly basis, you're going to know, okay, I'm in the 7th position. I'm going to go make this change, and I'm going to track what happens over the following weeks. And if something dramatic happens and you start losing rankings, then you know, okay, updating this post or updating this content wasn't the right thing to do. Let's go back, let's change the content, let's leave it as it was. Or, hey, it improved a lot. I need to start mimicking these things on my other types of content that are similar to this topic. So yes, by using your content audit.
Great presentation. So
Thank you.
One of the things that we have found successful, and it's very easy, is to get our content translated for the languages we provide. So I think that's a quick win if your business is global. Another question I had was regarding duplication a little bit. Sometimes year after year, you go to the same event. And you may talk about the same thing because that's what your business does. So creating new spins on it is sometimes really unique. And I guess, would you suggest maybe, say, next year when we're at something, making it like a video and then just kind of tacking it and referencing it back to prior years' accomplishments at the prior event to just kind of create a chronological position of being a staple at certain events, or I guess, but spicing it up a little bit?
Yes, certainly. Definitely as time is going on and you're going to new events, you should be creating new content at all of those events. But you don't want to let your old content die, because that old content may be what's ranking the best right now, and this new content isn't even ranking yet. So you can go back, and that's where you're going to republish. You're going to go back to that old content, throw a link in there as well to say, hey, it's been 3 years. We now have brand new interviews with these people that we're doing. Click here to see the latest and greatest at this event. So because that old piece of content is still ranking, when people see that, they're going to start clicking on that, and it's going to help drive traffic to your new content, and eventually the rankings are going to flip-flop. But you're still linking to both of them.
That's our time for now. But Ashley, thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you guys.